Hello, good morning, everybody. It's Dr. Ariel. I am so grateful that you are with us this morning. Thank you for saying yes to this Monday morning. Monday Mindset webinar is what I am calling it. And I'm so grateful that you're here. What an opportunity it is for us to reframe leadership in this new yet complicated norm that we are in. And so this opportunity is just a chance for us to talk. I have a couple folks who've inserted questions. We have our YouTube stream going live right now. Hello, everyone on YouTube. We have quite a few of you are on Zoom right now. Thank you to those of you from LinkedIn who are joining us. We have about 100 people registered today. So really, really grateful that you said yes to this opportunity to just talk specifically about how to win at leadership in the new norm. And I have a couple notes, of course, for you, some anecdotes and some facts, of course, that have come from my work in the coaching space, as well as even in the education space as well. So I'm grateful that you're here. And I'm going to share even some insights with you from the work that I've done in most recently in executive coaching as well as in leadership development in this crazy time that we are in. And it seemed as if this time has continued to be even more interesting and compounding since the COVID years, right? We're still very much post-COVID. And so let's unpack some of that. Let's do it right now. Let's jump all the way in. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Ariel Ellis. I am an executive coach, leadership trainer. I come from the communication space, having worked in DEI as well. I launched a coaching community called Everyone Needs a Champion in 2023. And we would host in that offering, inside of that offering, we would host what we call first Monday morning calls. Like, so every first Monday, we would have a coaching call or a leadership development session. And we are rebuilding that platform and next year. So we'll relaunch that platform next year. And so right now, though, we're bringing back the first Monday morning mindset calls is what I like to call them. We're bringing those back and we're opening up those calls for all. So you may have been a part of that inaugural community. If you were, thank you so much. We had a small but mighty community in our initial Everyone is a Champion community. And so thank you for coming back. Welcome back. And I'm excited to see all of you as we dive into this session. Many of us are looking for ways to just have more support in navigating this new norm that we're in. You may say, Dr. Ariel, what new norm are we in? Well, you may not want to call this thing that we're in a new norm. And again, for those of you who are streaming online, streaming on Zoom, feel free to type questions in the chat. And even those of you who are on YouTube. I'm going to be monitoring YouTube as well. You might say, well, what new norm? Do we want to accept our current times in the US specifically as a norm? Well, for the time being, until we know when and how we're going to shift and when things are going to be more comparable to what they used to be and safer and more understandable, and we have more clarity. Yes, we do have a little bit more of a new norm to contend with. And so many of us are trying to figure out day to day what the next step is. We're trying to get into the next level. Many of us are just trying to maintain and sustain. Some of us are trying to move from reaction mode to even reinvention. What do I do in this season? How do I lead in this time when things are so uncertain? And so my answer for that is specifically community. What does it look like to have trusted sources to walk alongside you, a group of peers to encourage you, to challenge you, and to inspire you along the way? Specifically in the work that I've done, I've spent my career really helping leaders navigate moments like this, seasons of uncertainty, seasons of complexity, and seasons of transformation. And so, what we'll unpack here today is five things. I want to talk about what it takes to win in the new norm. I want to talk about how to navigate the roadblocks ahead, how to establish a clear path for your vision, What does it mean to use community to energize your leadership development process? And lastly, what steps should we take to be leveling up? I believe in handling people with care, and it's only the right thing to do. It's also a mark of leadership competence. And so, as educators often say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So, before we jump into this session, feel free to type in the chat and let me know, how are you feeling today? How are you feeling mentally, emotionally, and physically? One, awful. Two, not good. Three, okay. Four, good. And five, great. Type your number in the chat. Okay, the Zoom is going off. Hey, Zoom. Yes, 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 yes. Awesome. Quite a few fours, a couple of twos. Hey, it's honest. You're being honest. And so I thank you for your honesty this morning. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, one thing that, in the work that I do specifically out of demand from my clients, we've worked with several corporate clients and several one-on-one clients. And in launching this series a couple of years back, we realized that many of our clients, even in during the COVID years, 2020, 2021, 22, many organizations and individuals inside of those organizations were facing the toughest challenges of their careers. And it's one thing that they ask for: community. They ask for ongoing support. And in community, we get a chance to become change agents. We are prepared to lead with excellence and leave a lasting mark. Um, the thing about everything that we face, when we think about it, COVID, of course, we've come through COVID, we've come through isolation, social unrest, economic uncertainty, leadership changes in our if you're in the U.S. Administration, even chaos, if you will, in various countries across the globe. We've Many of us have relocated, job changes, personal loss, inflation, and a workforce that's still very much adjusting to post-pandemic realities, and now even uncertainties as it relates to just where the workforce is going. And, even with that, even with all of that, today is an opportunity to recharge your battery and take off the mask, take off the cape, and recenter your thinking around leadership from a community perspective. You will hear me say community a lot because I do believe heavily in community. And there's one theoretical concept around leadership that I really center my work in, and it's called adaptive leadership. And I believe right now, as leaders, that specific framework is the framework we should be sitting in. Adaptive leadership is an opportunity to help us mobilize what it means to work in a day-to-day context in navigating meaningful and systemic change. Write that down. Adaptive leadership is an opportunity to focus on, or framework to focus on, what it means to lead in a day-to-day context while creating meaningful and systemic change. Get that? Meaningful and systemic change. Hello, everyone in the chat. Thank you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. Very good. Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. So, what I want you to be thinking about is, what does it mean for you to be an adaptive leader? Write that down. Just jot that down, if you will, or keep that in your mind. Because leadership is not about behaviors. Leadership is about what it means, or leadership is about behaviors. What I want to say is that leadership is not about tasks and things of that nature. It's not about just checking the box and getting things done. It's specifically about your behaviors. And what do those behaviors mean? What do they look like? What do they feel like? How do you navigate those behaviors? How do you even create an opportunity for those behaviors to influence others? Because again, in community is where you win. Title of the session is how to win in the new norm. The win is in community. And so we're going to unpack that today. As leaders, the higher we go, the less feedback we get. That creates a lot of uncertainty about our performance, our direction, and sometimes even our purpose. And right now, as I said earlier, one of the concepts in attaching it to adaptive leadership, one of the theories that I use to guide seasons, I guess you will, like this, is a theory or a concept around a leadership theory called VUCA. And VUCA was developed or first used in 1987, and it specifically stands for V, volatility, U, uncertainty, C, complexity, and A, ambiguity. And it was used or was developed as an acronym or a concept. And at the United States Army War College, was one of the first organizations. It was developed in 1987 by two experts in this space. And then it was used in 2001, following the 9/11 terrorist attacks, to figure out what does it mean to apply this concept to these very challenging times that we might be in. So volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity sound a lot like what we're experiencing right now, I'm sure. And neither of those words, and especially not the four of them together, they don't exactly inspire confidence, but they do define the environment that we're in. Traditional leadership models are great, but in the season or the times that we're in, a lot of traditional approaches to leadership, they're too slow to really keep up. So when we think about VUCA, the volatility, the uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, I like to even flip that and apply it to the world that we're in, and use the adaptive leadership context to flip it and use V for vision, U for understanding, C for clarity, and A for agility. Because when we counter that chaos with adaptive leadership, we can then look at a better framework to help us lead effectively, even when the path ahead isn't clear. And I don't know if clarity is something that folks can champion as much right now, even though we really need it. So I believe that we should respond to this VUCA state with adaptive leadership. So what is adaptive leadership? Adaptive leadership specifically refers to the change that enables thriving. It is the change that enables thriving. It essentially is change that transforms organizations. It demands people give up the things that they've been holding dear to, daily habits and loyalties and ways of thinking, in return for the possibility of a better approach, a better future. So it means these new environments that we're in, these challenges that we're facing, these uncertainties, they demand new strategies, and new leadership behaviors must be in place to mobilize them. When we specifically think about problems, problems are embedded within these complicated interactive systems. And much of human behavior reflects how we have to adapt to our circumstances. We've seen it time and time again, even in just human nature. We have to adapt to circumstances. And we more so adapt more successfully to environments a lot of times when the circumstances are painful. When the circumstances are difficult, we have to figure it out and we have to develop a new way to approach things, new attitudes, new behaviors. So that adaptive leadership is specifically about change, the change that enables the capacity to thrive, as I said earlier. Now, what might hinder our adaptive leadership? This adaptability to change and difficult change, hard times, uncertain times. What could hinder us from being able to live out our adaptive leadership? I got four things for you. One, the fear of looking ignorant. No one wants to look like they don't know. We all essentially want to look like we have the answers. Because one of the things that hinders us in even going past that is that we don't ask questions. Specifically, not just asking questions on the workplace and the space, but in various spaces, but we're not asking questions of ourselves. We're not asking questions in specifically what it means to think about things in a different context, right? Why did this happen? How could this have been differently? What led us here? How did we even get here? Asking some very real questions that sometimes we don't want to address. That definitely is going to hinder adaptive leadership. The next thing that I think hinders adaptive leadership is our fear of looking incompetent. No one likes to, no one likes to admit that they don't know. No one likes to admit that they've made a mistake, or sometimes we're okay with admitting that we made a mistake, but we don't always like for others to know that we've made a mistake. We kind of want to hide that. It makes us very uncomfortable. We don't like not knowing. We just don't like not knowing. And so that's a challenge when we're trying to adapt. That adaptability is going to require a level of transparency and even vulnerability at times. Another thing that hinders our adaptive leadership is fear of looking intrusive. We don't want to overwhelm people. We don't want to interrupt. We don't want to be a bother, if you will. And in doing so, we avoid hard conversations constantly. And I think now is the time where we're having some hard conversations, but perhaps hard conversations that we should have been having maybe years ago. And next, or lastly, the thing that I think hinders adaptive leadership is a fear of looking negative. We often have this, I like to call it false humility. We kind of have this false humility and this almost false positivity sometimes. Instead of just being honest, we'd rather stay silent about what's broken. And I think we're coming collectively out of that a little bit more. There's still some ways in which I think as a society, we can speak out more about the things that are broken and not just speaking about them, but doing things about them as well. But the fear of looking negative and staying silent about those things, we specifically need to understand that that can hinder our adaptive leadership. And I think also what confuses us about leadership in general is the fact that one of our biggest mistakes is that we're getting into, or we get into these technical problems with confusing technical issues, like things that we can just fix with adaptive challenges. So let me break that down. Let me simplify that for you. I'm getting very professor right now. Let me simplify that for you. In seasons like, or shifts like the one that we're in, states, a VUCA state, new tools, new tools, new policies or initiatives don't always fix and really won't fix deep systemic issues. Hear me on that one. A new tool, a new policy, a new initiative won't fix deep systemic issues. And what we're seeing now is a series, or not just a series, but a culture of systemic problems that are deep and have not been dealt with or have not been addressed, if you will. And so we're overwhelmed as leaders. And we've come into this new norm of having these deep systemic issues that collectively, the tool, the policy, the initiative didn't fix it. And so it requires us even sometimes to pull something up, pull the thing up from the root and start over. It requires us to create a new system. It requires us individually as leaders to show up differently. So when we get into this new norm of leadership, three things I like to say that new norms, difficult shifts require. One is mindfulness, looking at who you are as a leader and the personal characteristics that you could contribute to a difficult time or a VUCA state. The next one is influence. What kind of authority and influence do you have as a leader? Looking at the community around you, where can you place your influence? Where can you leverage your authority for good? And then lastly, nimbleness. The ways that we've done things in the past definitely won't work for now, and they certainly won't work for the future. So, what does it mean to be very nimble in how you take your approach to what's happening in the world and what's happening in the world of work? As you think about that, mindfulness, influence, nimbleness, I want you to take a moment to reflect. This is a very holistic approach to leadership, because it's not just let me get a couple tips, let me read a book, let me plug and play some things, and I'm going to be a better leader. No, this is not where we are. This era that we're in requires a different version of yourself. It requires a wholeness in who you are as a leader. So I'll ask you a couple questions to reflect on really quickly, and then we'll get into some big takeaways because I know that's why you're here. One, how are you exercising your mental? Think about that. How are you exercising your mental? What does that look like for you? How are you stretching your thoughts? Maybe pulling away from the cognitive or unconscious bias, a cognitive dissonance, even? How are you challenging and exercising your mind on a daily basis? What are you feeding your spirit? How often are you watching the headlines and the news and listening to all the things that are circling around our 24/7 news cycle, this information society that we're in? What are you actually feeding your spirit on a daily? I'll ask you this too, because this is important from an economic perspective. What is your relationship with money? The reason that reflection or that question is critical is because, of course, everybody needs money, and not everybody has enough of what they need, and some of us have enough of what we need, and still feeling, uncertain, right? Are you working a job because you just need the paycheck? Are you making decisions about your career exclusively based on money? What's your relationship with that? What are your spending habits? Have you dug into why you do what you do? Yes, all of that has a lot to do with how you lead and how effective your leadership is. And then lastly, what personal development are you investing in? Yes, you're here, right? But what kind of personal development are you investing in right now? What communities are you a part of? What are you how are you being poured into right now? Because as an adaptive leader in this new norm, you must redefine what you do as a problem solver. Write that down. Redefine what I do as a problem solver. You may have a gift, talent, skill, because gift, talent, and skill are three different things. I probably will do a video on redefining that as well. As you think about the times that we're in, your skill set may, of course, still be very relevant, but where to place it in this specific market may be a challenge for you. So you may need to think about, what do I do as a problem solver? How can I redefine it so that I can be in demand in this current shift that we're in this new norm? You also may want to consider how your contribution to um, a shared community may contribute to group dynamics. As you look at the gifts, skills, and talents of everyone around you, what's your contribution to that group? How are you showing up in these times? Again, you may have to show up differently based on the dynamics of the group and based on this new norm that we're contending with. Another thing to consider is how you may reframe your idea of being active or engaged as a change agent. Now, this can happen in your workplace, in your business, or even in community, your personal communities. What does it look like for you to reframe that and being more active and engaged as someone who is implementing change? Whether it's coming in as a change agent with a new idea, a new way of doing things, or a new way of helping others who are in leadership, or even in a new way of inspiring those who are attempting to also reframe their leadership approach right now. How do you show up in that way? What does, when you come in the space, I often say this for myself, I've said this for years. I see myself as a game changer. Every space I enter, I intend to leave it better than I found it. Every space I enter, my desire is to leave that space better than it was when I arrived. So, what does that look like for you? Even just in a small capacity. And think about how you can assess, or think about how to assess, rather, how you see and engage with the human condition. I mentioned earlier how, the news headlines, there's a lot going on, a lot to pay attention to. So the human condition is never going to go away. There's always a human condition, if you will, and sometimes it'll get worse and sometimes it'll get better. But how do you see these things? How are you framing these things? And then how do you engage with that in some way? When I say engage, I mean, what is your heart for those things? What is your attention to those things? What is your commitment to pouring in whatever capacity you see fit, right? So all those things are critical. So let's jump in a little bit in some of the steps to win in this new norm. One of the best ways, I think, I have 6 steps for you, but one of the things I think will really help and I think is critical and really is a basis for this talk or this session, if you will, is to think about what it means to be in community, what it means to pursue group coaching, what it means to be in, even if you're in a one-on-one coaching small group, even if you are in a WhatsApp group, a Discord group, what does it mean to sit in community with other people in these difficult times? This is one of the ways that you put yourself in position as a leader to win in a new norm because you cannot win in isolation. In time, you can win in isolation, but in times like this, you cannot. When you're thinking about a new norm, you have to be in community because those longer periods of exposure to thoughts and ideas of people who've had various life experiences and work experiences that may be similar but uniquely different than yours, it brings the best out of you. So that's one of the things I want to center as we transition into the steps that I'm going to give you on how to win in a new norm. So, step one, well, not really steps, point one, because they don't have to be in any type of consecutive or subsequential order. But point one is what I want to share with you. Point one is this. I want you to, as I said earlier, community, but I want you to first resist the urge to devalue your personal development. A lot of times I hear folks resist, they're just not interested in being in community. That is the worst way. If you want to lose in leadership, if you want to lose in leadership in a new norm, stay isolated. Refuse community, all right? I want you to resist that urge to isolate and be by yourself and not pursue professional development. We are in a time of major disruption. We have seen now more than ever that the journey of us as leaders, it's talked about, it is championed, but it's loosely defined in times like this. There's some great definitions that we could try to apply, some great historical, some great theoretical definitions. I use one even now, talking about VUCA and talking about adaptive leadership. But what's most important is just understanding that you know the value of people and what you can learn from people. And when you do, you get a chance to speak to their needs. You get a chance to speak to, have greater value in being able to support others. You need to resist the urge to devalue and to say, I ain't got time for that. I don't have time to be in a community. I don't have time to see what other people who's on. I already know how to lead. I already know how to do these things. If it doesn't have immediate intrinsic value for me, I'm not interested. If I can't make money off of it, I don't have time for it. That is going to slow you down tremendously. In a time like this, we are in, as I said, major disruption. And so resisting or leaning into community, specifically the personal development, even if you're doing one-on-one work, that is going to be critical for you to win as a leader in this new norm. The next thing I want you to consider is laying a new foundation. You may have to rethink how you're going about the work that you're doing, and retooling yourself and retooling your thoughts and retooling your approach. You may have to completely think about the work that you do and how you do it. Are any of your mindsets outdated? Are any of the your approaches outdated? If it doesn't work, why are you doing it, right? So you may need to rethink your foundation. Your foundation may be a really good one. It may be a really strong one. But as you think about laying this new foundation, you don't want to wait until we are in another crisis to and use that to drive your commitment. You want to have the kind of foundation that sustains long before it's tested. So do some knowledge sharing. Collect information from others on their pain points and their problems and the opportunities that are most pressing for them. As you think about that, even in your organizations, you cannot have a one size fits all approach to things. You may have to completely pull some things up from the root, even in your own personal mindset, so that you can get more intentional about your leadership journey. The next thing, how to win in leadership in a new norm, is find and foster new relationships. This is the thing that I love most is thinking about what it means to be creative, about finding the right people to help you tackle the specific challenges that you've identified. I'm a communicator. My background is in communication, strategic communication and PR. And as a professor, I teach those things as well. And as communicators, we are always managing and maintaining mutually beneficial relationships. In this virtual world that we're in, it gives us the tools to do just that. In fact, many of you who are joining me from on Zoom, uh, you're here. You found this through LinkedIn. You got an invitation to join this session via LinkedIn, and of my almost 10,000 connections, right? I shared this event with the majority of you, I think, to the limit that LinkedIn allowed me to. um, to the capacity. And this is how you found this session. And so, what does it mean to just reach out to people? You see that they're connected. I'll give you an example. I posted to LinkedIn last week, referencing those who've lost jobs, who've been displaced in their careers, things of that nature. I see people posting and saying that they're behind on their bills and they're, 1 month away from being evicted and they've lost their jobs. I see a lot of these things on LinkedIn. And so I posted in reference saying that I'm in support of anyone who's having an experience right now, and specifically saying if you are in any of these industries, the industries that I'm closely connected to, or the workspaces I'm closely connected to, such as PR and communications and the DEI and culture space and higher education and the global space, the international space. If you work in any of those spaces, message me if you want an introduction to someone. If you see I have a first connection with someone that you want to connect to, or there's a job at a company and I know someone who works there, send me a message and I'll make that introduction. So these are the things that we have to kind of go a step up to do to make that connection. Is there, for those of you who are leading people, your people leader, is there an employee with a certain cultural capital inside of your organization that you can strike a conversation with? Is there a topic perhaps that you could present to your audience on Facebook Live or get them engaged in new ways? Find people. This is a time to find and connect and with people and foster greater relationships. Why are you so afraid to make the introduction? Why are you so afraid to send the connection request? Send a note, introduce yourself, and say, "Hey, I like your content, or I'm really interested about in what you do. I love your profile. Would love to connect." It's just that simple. It's just that simple. I see people being afraid of that. I see people being too proud to say they want to connect. No, in this new norm, relationships are currency and you need them. I could go on and on about relationships, but my next point I want to give you about how to win in the new norm, how to win in leadership in the new norm, is continuing to, or if you haven't already, respect the remote space. We see how conflict resolution, employee engagement, problem solving, all of that hinges on our ability to connect to the culture of our work, and the feelings of belonging inside an organization. And so our minds have to be together even when our bodies aren't. And so that remote space is going to be so critical. I used to say that a lot when I was doing trainings in coaching during the pandemic, is that we have an opportunity now that remote work is very, very real for many of us. We have an opportunity to respect that space even more and kind of go above and beyond and making connections, kind of go above and beyond and taking advantage of this space and taking advantage of the times that we're in and respecting that space. The next thing I want you to think about is continuing to, if and I say continuing as if you're doing it, and I hope you are, you should be, regardless of what folks are saying right now or the challenges are. Continue to set the table for equity. Why do I say equity? Of course, I think you know why I say equity. But equity gives us an opportunity to think about new workplace designs and tools that really help people communicate more effectively, easily, and collaborate. So, what does it mean to set the table for equity? It means that acknowledging that all of us are at different starting point, all of us are at different phases, and realize that many of us may need different things. So as you lead people, as you lead processes, as you lead even profits, right? I like to use those three P's. People who lead, manage, are responsible for people, processes, and profits. As you think about equity, regardless of the challenge, regardless of what you call it inside your organization, regardless of what the detractors want to say about equity, we can't escape the concept of equity. No matter how you practice it, we can't escape that because essentially this is what we're saying when we talk about equity. We want to make equitable decisions that allow participation for everyone. How do you participate in? And as a leader, you can hold to this no matter what your organization is doing. You can be an equitable leader who is looking to make sure that you are getting it right, right? That you are thinking about the future of work, that you are caring for the people that you lead. And my last point, how to win in leadership in the new norm. And this one is important. Focus on the long game. You might say, Dr. Ariel, I don't know what the long game is. I just want to make it to the end of the day. I get it. But this is why you start small and you stay in community and you build as much as you can. You can always tell when organizations are not focused on the long game. They're looking at right now and they want to make it day to day. And sometimes that same energy, if you will, that same focus kind of influences leaders inside of the organization because they're trying to get through a specific initiative or a specific effort versus dealing with true business imperatives. And so you as a leader, you've got to be forward thinking. Yes, day to day progress is critical, but you've got to be forward thinking, even as you think about the fact that it's tempting to respond to uncertainty and financial pressure by just making the quickest decision and throwing mud on the wall and seeing if it sticks. But that won't serve you as a leader in the long run. Your efforts can be scrappy, they can be effective, but they also need to be sustainable and strategic, right? So as you focus on the long game, not just for your work, not just for your organization or your business, you need to focus on the long game for your life and your career. All right. So those are my those are my ways to win at leadership in the new norm. I hope this was helpful for you. Please. Oh, there were some questions. Someone sent some questions. Let's see. I don't see any questions in the chat here. Okay, I see comments in the chat here on Zoom, but I don't see any questions in the chat. But I did get a question that was submitted to me via email if I could answer it, and I absolutely can. This question was in reference to um, um, how to, let me see, where's my question? Here it is. This question was in reference to how to lead specifically when there's no leadership for you inside of your organization, or your leaders are just kind of maybe perhaps falling asleep at the wheel. I wish I could find I don't know why I don't have it in front of me, but essentially the person sent the question, and thank you so much for sending in that question. The question was, what do I do as a leader when I don't feel like I'm being led, when my leader is overwhelmed by the times that we're in, right? By the difficult seasons that we're in, the VUCA state that we're in. How can I persevere in that? And my answer to that, thank you again for sending that question. so wish I had the name in front of me, but I don't. I apologize. I will respond back to you directly. But the question again, how do I lead when those who I am led by are challenged and overwhelmed by the environment? Here's my thing about my response to that. We co-create the environment that we're in together. Your influence will have to be paramount at this time. The decisions that you make are going to be critical. And when you put yourself in community, it helps you identify how to share and articulate your challenges with others and express where you're stuck. So you may not be able to have a ton of influence directly on the people that you're reporting to, but you do have an opportunity to have a direct influence on the people that you're leading. So essentially, it sounds like your role is kind of a middle role, right? You have those you report to, but you have those who report to you, right? And your challenge is with those who you report to who are overwhelmed with what is happening in this new norm that we're contending with. You have to continue to show up as the winner. You have to continue to show up as the champion for the people that you lead and kind of a change agent for the people that you're led by. And I know that's hard, but what that does is it consciously calls you to be conscious about coming out of your comfort zone because you probably, many of us, haven't had to help inspire and encourage those we're led by. We're used to them encouraging and inspiring us. And so this requires a new version of you, as I kind of mentioned that earlier at the beginning of the session. This requires a new version of you to emerge. And so I would encourage you to stay the course, to realize that the capacity that those who you are led by is limited right now. And so it may require you to come out of the comfort zone just a bit. And I don't know your work environment. I hope that you are safe. I hope that you have psychological safety and it's okay for you to feel that you can kind of come out of that comfort zone just a little bit. Um, and feel, I know you probably feel a pinch, but take on the challenge of knowing that as you encourage and inspire those who you are led by, that this is an opportunity for you to benefit and grow and stretch just a little bit. This is a time for you to maximize skills and competencies. Again, in the context that you are safe to do so, because many workplace environments are volatile right now. But the decisions that you make are going to be critical. And I'll say, get into community. Especially if your workforce or your workspace is not a safe one, you have to find a community externally. There are plenty of communities. Specifically, if you just join a chat group or join a free community, even join a paid community, whatever that looks like, even in your network, in an association, in your industry, in your sector, a small group, folks who know what you do, even folks who don't know anything about what you do. That community, as I said, is going to give you an opportunity to share and articulate your challenges and to express where you feel stuck, to have new ideas. You can name the thing that you're experiencing. You can think through it with other people. You can build a solution and then run that play or continuously run the plays. So many of us, very much like the person who submitted the question, are in, tight spots right now. And we're just trying to, as I said earlier, day to day. But I do encourage you to push through, to stretch yourself just a little bit. Realize that those who lead you can't give you what you need right now and are probably even adding a little bit more pressure on you than they typically would. And it does require you just a touch to inspire and influence in ways that you haven't before, because even though it may feel like you're doing it for them, you're really doing it for you. You are. You're doing that for you because you may have an opportunity to even move up or even out of this role of this organization because of how you're grooming yourself right now, because of the challenge you're experiencing. And you'll be a better leader for it. So, thank you all so much for being here. Hello, everyone in the zone. Thank you so much for participating and being a part of this session. If you like it, I'll continue to do these first of the month. I like to call them mindset calls, these monthly mindset calls, which we're initially doing in my coaching community, and we're going to thinking about bringing that back and determining what that looks like. So thank you all. I hope this helped you. If it did help you, great. And if you want to learn more about how to work with me in coaching or work with me with your organization, feel free to go to my website, arielellis.com. And you can also email me at hello@arielellis.com. Thank you again for being here. And I'm just really grateful that you've been a part of this session. Hope to see you again soon. Bye bye.